All right, hi everybody. My name's Todd Boss. We're here live in Las Vegas, 2021. We're at the Three-Wall Ball National Championships, and I have an incredible pleasure to have one of the legends of the sport. I'm sitting next to the one and only Charlie Brumfield. We're talking about a 5-time pro champ. He was he was the original first-time pro champ, and he was one of the first outdoor champs as well. And to my left, we have perhaps the greatest paddleball player in the history of the game, in Aaron Embry. He's blushing, but you can't tell because I think he's got a little bit of a sunburn right now. So we wanted to get a chance. Thanks for coming down here.
My pleasure.
And if I could interrupt for one quick moment, Charlie is the holder of all titles because he won paddleball national singles doubles, indoor racquetball singles and doubles, and outdoor singles and doubles all in the same year. So I just want to clarify that the people's champion is right here.
People's champion, the champion of all champions. So Charlie, first off, have you been here before?
I've come here about 7 times because I really enjoy watching the outdoor game, and the quality of athlete is superb, and we also have handball and paddleball, and it's just a great show for everybody who comes.
So let me ask you a question. I'll go back and forth here, Aaron. So back in the day, back in the early 70s, when you started to transition from paddleball to racquetball, tell me about the courts that you played on and the kind of like the pace of the game versus, say, like the courts that we have here and the pace of the game today.
All right, the courts we played on were at Orange Coast College in Orange County, California, and they were way, way larger than these courts that we're playing on here. And the way that produced a different result was that the outdoor people who had been playing on those courts had mastered every shot necessary to screw up a 4-wall player coming in. And it was a death battle. They had the 3-wall guys lined up and the 4-wall guys were over here. And Barry Wallace was running the show. And he set the people in the 4-wall to where they could enjoy the sun right on the top of the wall when they played their first match. And if my memory serves, at least 50% of the pros lost in the first round in singles, and most of them lost in the first round in doubles. It was a bloodbath for us, but ultimately I would say that there was more action because it was easier to hit the ball in the court at different areas, and you had to go get it. There was no reaching to get it. You had to run all over the court. And one of the things that also has changed, we had to go into the adjoining court and play the shot while the other player was playing his shot, and there were no hinders. So it was quite an interesting spectacle.
So I'm gonna ask you to reminisce a little bit. So Dr. Wallace, when Wallace and Wexel decided to put on the first outdoor nationals, it was 1974.
Yes.
And it was at Orange Coast College where they taught and where they had basically not invented outdoor racquetball, but they were really big proponents of it. They came down to San Diego to talk to you to try to get the indoor pros to come on board. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes, and I've talked to Barry and Mr. Wetzel a lot about it. They wanted me, because of my stature and position and the fact that I had played a lot of outdoor handball in school and won a title there, they wanted me to sell the people who have never played outdoors that they should come and battle it out and look like they were spastics against the 3-wall players. And they had everything going. And we knew that there was going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
I mean, but there was also the ability to show an adjustability, which we felt we had. And many of the indoor players were technically superior to the outdoor players in the sense that they could hit the ball harder from different positions. But it gives you no advantage when you're back there running into the stand and their referees are going, hey, how was that back there? You know, it was really fun and really amazingly innovative.
Yeah. So I feel like there was a great crossover between the indoor pros of the 70s up until about 1979, 1980. I believe in 79, Hogan won the outdoor national singles finally after many times attempting to do it. And then really there was a gap for decades before the indoor pros really started to play again. Do you think it's great? I think it's really cool that the indoor pros are now really crossing over and playing outdoor again, especially with the likes of De La Rosa and Beltran. I mean, what do you think? Are you happy to see this crossover back?
I am. I do like the aspect of competing against the three-wall, the evil three-wall empire is what we called it in those days.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it was great to have where they had their niches and abilities and we had ours, and it was a matchup where everybody thought they had a chance, and very few did. I mean, once you got out there and you saw how difficult it was unbelievable. And I could tell you a story about the first time I took my doubles partner out here. Dr. Muehlheisen was my doubles partner, who's been a great player for many, many years, and he was older. But he came down with me. I said, Dr. Bud, you can't just show up to this tournament. You've got to come down and practice with me at least once. So he came down with me the week before the actual competition. And we saw some guys, they had guys playing on all 15. I mean, it was packed all the time. And we played a game against two guys and barely scraped by and beat them, and we said, hey, we'll see you in the tournament. And they go, no, we're C players. And we're going, oh my God. It was a revelation.
Well, so the word is, well, obviously within 2 or 3 days you had learned enough to win that title. That's as the story goes. But eventually you were vanquished by Wallace and Wetzel, and you sent him a letter. What did you tell him in that letter?
I told Barry that I respected their play, and I had made a serious error in there, because what I like to do is I try to control the match, among other things, with my personality. And when I have a hothead opponent, and Barry is the hottest of the hotheads, what I tried to do was to get the temperature up to where he could no longer function. So we were in the match that they beat us, which was in the second year. We beat them the first year.
Right.
The second year, I had talked to him after the first year's loss and said, hey, you're not going to win if you let me in the middle of the court. You just won't win. I don't care what you think about your abilities. And he says, well, why not? He says, well, because then I'm in here and I'm going to block your bitch ass out, and you're not going to be able to do anything, and that's what's going to happen. And so he said, well, what would you do? I said, well, I would serve me and try to make the Dr. Muehlheisen cover in front.
Yeah. And
that's what they did. But they didn't do it until after I made the faux pas. I stopped play. It was 9-0, us serving, first serve. And the crowd was packed, and I looked at the crowd, I looked at Barry, and I said, Barry, do we have to put everyone through the punishment of watching the rest of this bitch slapping? And the guy's face turned beet red, and it didn't go well for me after that.
See, these are the great stories that we just don't have these kind of stories these days. So let me pivot a little bit and bring in Aaron. So Aaron, tell me about, if I understand your backstory, you played paddleball with Charlie back in the very early days, and kind of see a transition from, say, like from the early 70s. So tell me a little bit about your backstory.
So I started out playing racquetball as a junior in the early mid 70s, and the thing that we did is we always played a little bit of we played racquetball, and we always played paddleball. And so when Charlie, as a junior player, you hoped that one day that Marty Hogan and Charlie Brumfield and all the greats that played in San Diego, you get a chance to play them.
Yeah.
Well, I got a few chances to play Charlie and Dr. Bud. And my first experience with Charlie is Charlie's playing right, I'm playing left. Me and Dr. Bud are having a very gentleman match on the left side. This guy runs over, out of nowhere, elbows me in the gut. I bend over, I can barely move, I'm gasping, and he runs off and hits the next point. And I go, that's strange, that's not very polite. And then so we do it again, and I get the second elbow, and then I realize that I'm being trained to play pro racquetball at that point. And then when he comes over, I elbowed him, and he looked at me and he smiled and he goes, good job. And then the match was just like a good match at that point.
He was testing you early.
He was. And, Charlie makes everybody play better around him. And that was the thing that it was always great to train with him or Dr. Bud, is those guys you had to show up and play and be something that you weren't. And it was really a great experience as a person growing up and playing ball.
That's really cool. So tell me, just for the because this is primarily a racquetball audience. So Give us a little bit of your background, what you've accomplished in the sport and paddleball, and why we've asked you here today to commentate.
Like I said, I played Charlie for years and years and years in paddleball and racquetball. When I played pro racquetball, we played paddleball in the off season as training. And so, paddleball has just always been a joy of ours to play, and it's been our roots. So in 2008, I won the national singles. Had a couple injuries, came back and played some more ball, won some more, and I don't want to talk about myself too much, but I've been blessed enough to compete and play at a high level for a long time.
That's very cool. So after you kind of stepped back from pro racquetball, you have continued to play paddleball.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. I played paddleball up until and including last year when COVID hit, and I expect to play again. I just had my hip replaced so I can move a little bit more. I was always good at getting the ball before it got by me, which enabled me to utilize some of my techniques, and I need that quickness back to be able to move a little bit. But I'm expecting to play for 5 more years. I'm really looking forward to coming here and playing.
Well, that's excellent. So we're going to expect to see you here in the pro paddleball draw next year. Maybe we'll invent a new division, maybe like the Centurion Plus. The 150s?
Yeah, exactly.
How about the 150s?
That would be good.
RO's still playing. Imagine you two playing straight up some singles.
I've played RO some straight up singles, and I'm sure he recalls it as I do. And he's a heck of a competitor.
By the way, the last time I talked to RO, he told me to tell you that he still thinks he's better than you.
He is better than me. That's the joy of my career. They were all better than me.
But they never beat you.
Most of the time it came out of my favor, but I had the whole gamut of preparation. Outdoor handball, indoor handball, racquetball. If you play all of this, you learn to adjust. And these kids are out here playing 6 events sometimes, and it's great.
All right, well, hey, I'm going to let you guys go. I wanted to say great to see you, great to meet you. Thanks for being here. And
thank you so much. And we love the stats.
Oh, well, thank you. And that's us out for Vegas 2021.